This arcade really meant a lot to me. It opened my eyes to the endless possibilities of what video games could be like. It single-handedly helped me to be more interested with gaming itself. And the fact that I've been here talking about most of my memories for an entire year really says something. I started with Lucky and Wow, a pretty unique light gun games, and I guess it just makes sense to talk about another one within the genre. Not just one, but two that I remember spending the most quarters on. So let's start with this. Silent Scope, aka Sirento Sukopu, is a light gun game published and developed by Konami. You know, the company that doesn't have any good games to begin with. Zero good games. This was the company that made a bunch of bad decisions in recent years and garnered lots of hates. Their present is bad, the future must be bad, surely the past is bad too. This was released in the arcade in 1999. And you guessed it, it's not just a game, it's a rock! A rock! It's more than just your typical arcade shooter. What you are seeing here is the machine itself. You will have to concentrate at the scope while trying to take down the enemy on screen. You have to look at the big screen and then the tiny screen vice versa to fire away your bullets. It is so unique for its time and probably all time as well. Arcade games always find different ways to attract players. This game really makes you feel like a sniper, especially when you watch too many movies revolving sniper. Hey, forgive me for my ignorance. I have zero knowledge about arcade games back then, so it makes sense I am fascinated with literally everything. However, there's no way to play this other than finding the machine, which is rare. That's when Konami released multiple console ports. This is a Dreamcast port that was released a year later, and that's when fans were able to play this hidden gem, including myself. You move around the scope with a D-pad or analog stick, and shoot the corresponding enemy with the face button on your right. And that's basically the entire core of the game. You will have to zoom in and out all the time, finding the enemy, aiming the enemy, and hitting the enemy. At the same time, you also have to aim carefully to take out the enemy and keep the civilians safe, because you cannot commit war crime. It turns out the whole president family was kidnapped by some bad guys, and it's our job to do it quietly. How does that even work? For a game called Silent Scope, it's not silent to begin with. Every time you fire a bullet, obviously it releases a loud noise so that the enemy can see or react to you. Here's the thing, I don't know much about military weaponry, but I know one thing. Wasn't there a thing called a silencer? You know, you equip the thing so that no one can hear any shots being fired. Seriously, Konami, what are you doing? Either way, you can shoot anywhere on the enemy and score different points. And if you're able to maintain the target without missing, your score will multiply. Not that it really matters because that still doesn't account to war crime. You earn nothing extra for getting headshots, but you earn extra life for doing this. Wow! Hey, you know, people gotta relax from their job, am I right? The game also have branching pathways with different varying difficulties, and whatever you do not pick this one unless you have good confidence within you. The game as a whole is hard, but not entirely the game's fault. And I'm gonna say here, the controls are not good. It's either too sensitive or too janky. It can be too fast and too slow at any given moment. Yes, you can play with a mouse, but because I don't own a Dreamcast and I'm playing this on an emulator, I have to stick with the controller. And I guess the controller just could not emulate the authenticity of the arcade cabinet. You often overshoot the trajectory or could not get to the area in time, as opposed to the light gun where you just hover over the screen, whilst here, you have to casually scroll the crosshair and it feels like forever. It's even worse when the enemy moves sporadically all over the place and you cannot wait too long or else they make another gesture that will make you miss these shots. When you think about it, you know what? Why don't they just release a special peripheral? Like a sniper replica, smaller in scale, just like your typical light gun. Other companies have their own wacky design, so why can't Konami do the same as well? Remember, this was also the same company that created the motion sensor thing, and also a bunch of dancing mats, so this shouldn't be a problem, am I right? I imagine this game will be easier if you can play with light gun. Because apparently this game does not support light gun. Due to the issue, you have to wrestle with the awkward controls. Just like in Midnight Run, you have to tap gently on the D-pad / analog to avoid moving too much. Yes, you have the ability to increase / decrease the crosshair speed, but it didn't do anything to improve the experience. One half of the game is riddled with poor controls, and the other half is where the game being at its absolute worst. Some areas are just too dark, especially at the latter part of the game where you have to storm the enemy mansion. As you can see here, it's so dark to the point that you can't see anything at all. The enemy AI will not reveal themselves until they fire their shots, and for some unholy reason, they can see you easily and hit you right on the target. Enemy often shoots right away, not leaving any time for you to think, further proving that we should have brought along a silencer. Obviously, you have to be very fast. And yes, time extension exists, but not by much. At least, it's not like in Police 24/7, where the timer does not reset even if you progress into the next level. Here in Silent Scope, depending on how fast you beat the current level, the remaining time will be added to the next one, but that's not to say the game will be generous. The game is possible, but it can be a quarter muncher for the first 20-30 playthroughs. 1cc is doable, but very hard. The fact that you were only given 2 credits as a default weapon makes it even worse. But at the end of the day, Silent Scope is still really fun. It's pretty unique for this time, where you constantly look at both screens and aim at the enemies to take them out. It's a shame the console ports just couldn't live up to the expectation, as they don't support light gun. The game would be successful enough to spawn another 2 sequels before Konami forgetting it. For the better, I guess. Alright, I think that's it for this game. How about we move on from a frustrating game to a very fun game? Point Blank is a light gun game developed and published by Namco, released in the arcade in 1994. Brought to you from the same people that made a bunch of great games for the past, the present, and definitely the future. You never heard anything bad from Namco, unlike Konami. Anyway, the thing that captivates me about this game is how silly it can be. When I saw the attract mode, the game keeps showing a bunch of things you need to do. like shooting the dragon, hitting the birdie, or even stopping the criminal, all within a certain timer. I feel like this is something fascinating, like how do we go from this to this? This feels like a game taken out of context, and I loved it. When I looked at the arcade cabinet, I was like, what is this? Why is there a skeleton here? What is the piranha doing here? Why is there a target board here? So many questions, and as I insert the coin, the end result is that I love the game. Point Blank is not the first time Namco make a light gun game, as they already did the same couple years ago, so you can say they have enough experience going into this. The game also came out on the same year as Virtual Cop. That other game I don't really find to be interesting at all. It's not a bad game, but I just don't think it's that good, to be honest. As you insert the credits, the game starts quickly and ends quickly with only 12 stages from beginner onwards. And whatever you do not pick very hard. Just like in Virtual Cop, you can select whichever level you want from the get-go. You can choose to not pick this, but you can never run away from it. From what I heard, people often compare this to WarriorWare series, but I just don't see it. WarriorWare minigames mostly last around 5 seconds, but in Point Blank, it ranged from 5 to 25 seconds. So you can't really compare both to the core. Anyway, Point Blank consists of 5 minigames with different themes that test you on different aspects. For example, Marksman, where you have to shoot the falling leaf. There you go, I'm useless. Defending, where you have to defend and shoot and survive the whatever object onslaughts till the timer runs out. Like this one, where you have to defend the earth from a bunch of meteors that fell out of nowhere. I guess you can say, Jupiter strike again. Or how about this one, where we have to protect this maniac from a bunch of tanks? I think he committed a war crime to get to this point. Accuracy, where this one, where you have to shoot fast while also paying attention at where you have to shoot. Speed, you have to shoot fast before the target leaves the screen. This one where you have to pop those birds is sketchy, but somehow addicting as well. I'm sure the Animal Foundation will not mind if I do something bad. I mean, many people say this game is non-violent, and I can see why. Reaction, you have to pay close attention to whatever that pops out so that you don't accidentally shoot the wrong thing. Like this one where you have to shoot your own color of target respectively. And if you think this is not a lollipop candy, you are severely wrong. Those are the best examples of the themes that the game will test you, and when everything comes together, you got a recipe of wackiness waiting to unfold. The stages were randomly generated each playthrough so that you will never expect what the next event will come. And consider yourself lucky if the level you're good at falls within the very hard category. Doesn't matter if it's beginner or expert, Namco loves to throw in that dreaded fire in each rose, as if they are trying to stop you from getting the 1cc. As you can see here, beginner is pretty generous. But then comes expert, where you have to be really good to overcome the challenge. You have to be very marksman-ish, if that's even a word, and not miss any target. On expert, you miss one target and that could be it, hotshot. Lose all lives, and you're gonna have to use a continue. And don't even get me started on very hard, the ultimate challenge. But every levels will amps up to the absolute limit, and it's literally impossible. I know some people out there can do this difficulty, But wow, Namco did not go easy on anyone. I guess Belkan was right. The game as a whole is packed with lots of humors. I never imagined shooting cardboard criminals can be so exhilarating. I don't see anything wrong with breaking the skellies, and I don't feel bad for dropping the maniac into the ocean. It's so wacky, it's so crazy that those were the reason the game is so good and never gets old. Hence, this is the reason the game was well received, and dare I say, better than Virtual Cop. The game would then receive 2 sequels, it was more of the same anyway. There was a game where you fight ghosts, which is pretty fun. Then a sequel on DS, and then a mobile game, and then a remake of the first game. I guess even Bamco really loved the first game as well. The game is still fun, even if you don't have friends to play. Being solo means that you don't have to deal with any toxicity. And that's another set of games that I have done going through in my local arcade. And you know what? I think it's time to end it here. I had lots of fun talking about each games that I like and care the most in this small haven. Going through the past, nostalgia, and the eventual present are something that I never expected to do for this long. You know what they say? The closer you are towards the finish line, the lesser things you have to say about them. I mean, I have more things to say, but in generally, I don't have anything else to say. I mean, I can talk about this game, Outrunners, but I don't quite enjoy it unlike everyone else. I could talk about this thing where I swear it was the greatest invention ever, but everyone else thinks it's just normal. Or I could just talk about this game, but everyone knows what is this, so there's no point mentioning it. Maybe if I can get a 1cc to finish off the journey, that would be great. But until the day comes, I will end the journey, the road trip arcade journey here. It's been a pleasure revisiting my nostalgia, but the arcade is long gone. My local mall still is around, but the arcade, gone forever. What remains is the piece of paper memories, and I would have to try something else in the future. Life goes on, and it really sucks. Thank you for all the good times. I won't forget it. For one last time, goodbye.